It's the moment you've all been waiting for again. Market statistics for May of 2026. The best place to get the real news about what the heck's happening in the Prescott market. Hello and welcome to Moveonomics. I'm Peter Fife with Coldwell Banker Northland in beautiful Prescott, Arizona, where Prescott is everybody's hometown. And this is your go-to spot to know what the heck's going on in the Greater Prescott market. So, it's the time you've all been waiting for. Prescott stats for May 2026. And boy, do I have some exciting news for you. So let's look at some of the stats, what's going on. First of all, let's look at the total active inventory. Right now, we're sitting at 1,559 homes in the total MLS. That's down a whopping 11.1% from last year, which was sitting at 1,754. That's big news. Inventory down. Remember, that's the first step. Remember, we said less inventory, more activity, means that prices can go up again. Okay. Now, new listings, we were at 615 in May of this year versus 617 last year. Now, last year we had quite a few listings. So even though it's pretty flat, I mean, it's two listings, whoop-de-poop, who cares? Basically flat. But that's good because we didn't go higher than last year. But last year was a pretty healthy active inventory, but the main inventory went down. But this is where it gets interesting. So showings per listing in May of 2026 has gone up by 17.9% year over year. That's 3.3 per listing versus 2.8 last year. What was happening last year, remember, is tariff wars. So we were kind of in a depressed market. We weren't doing so hotsy-totsy. So this year we're doing better. And the main inventory is down. And the reason why it's down is because pending inventory, the pending sales in May went up to 45.8% increase. That is huge. 433 homes went under contract in May versus 297 last year. Now, our average in the Greater Prescott market seems to roll around that 330 to 360 range every month this time of year. So 433 is huge. I mean, even though you're saying, wow, 60 more deals, what does that matter? 60 more deals makes a big difference. I saw it personally myself last month. If this is always true, remember my go-to. If you overprice a house in the Prescott market, it's not going to move because all of our buyers are super low motivation and they know the value of a home. Most of them have been looking 2-3 years or a very long time. And so they're just watching. If you price a home right and you stage it well to make it look 1% better than the competition, it's going to go and it's going to go fast. I would say 70% of my listings that I did last month in May all sold within a couple months. Now, there's a few exceptions to that. If I have an odd floor plan or heavy traffic noise or power lines or plane noise or some of that kind of stuff, that doesn't always sit the same. Or if we started just a little bit too high. So that's not always the case. But if you start right, stage it well, it's always going to sell, especially if you market the tar out of it like I do. Okay, next, month supply of inventory. Month supply of inventory decreased by 23%. That's big deal. We went down to 4.7 months of inventory. Now we're starting to switch from that buyer's market to a balanced market, almost a seller's market. I've had a number of homes that went over asking last month because, again, you got to price it aggressively and you'll get that, oh no, fear of missing out. It creates that anticipation. It creates motivation in those people who are not motivated. That's how you do it. Okay. Median days on the market is 37 versus 38. Oh, who cares? That's a non-issue. That's the same old flatness. Closed sales, though, are up 12.1% compared to last year. Now, the closed sales from last year were a little bit depressed. They were at 321 last year. We're at 360 this year. That's about average. If you go back 2 years ago, that's about where we were at. So we're going back to a kind of a normal market, which is a good thing. And our inventory is not jacked up to 1,800. When we start hitting that 1,800, then we're on thin ice. I remember back in the bank-owned days, by the way, our inventory sat at 3,000 to 3,200. That was a lot. That's what we were sitting at in 2010, 11, and 12. And miraculously, we would stay at that exact same ratio all the time. They wouldn't let more than a certain percentage of the homes in the total market be bank owns. And they would just trade off between Chase and Wells Fargo. That's a whole nother discussion I could get into. But anyway, let's talk about price per square foot. Price per square foot decreased 1.4% compared to last year. It was $280 last month versus $284 last year. What was going on last year was the smaller houses were selling. This year in May, the bigger houses were selling. I sold a number of $1 million plus homes last month. It did pretty well last month. So May median sales price increased to $475 versus $470 last year. Again, that's a 1.1% increase. What was going on again is last year, because of the tariff wars and the stock market declining, the upper end homes last year were not selling very well. Last month, they were. So the $1 million plus properties were moving quite well. So therefore, when you have a bunch of $1 million homes, it's going to bring that median home price up. Doesn't necessarily mean the whole price and the whole market's gone up. It just means some bigger homes sold last month. Overall, I can tell you it's looking good. We're bouncing along. I think May did better simply because a lot of people were like, Iran war, whatever. They've kind of blown that off. It was a big issue come April and March. But now that May's rolled around, it's kind of like, well, there's no mushroom clouds. We're all still breathing. I got to live somewhere. I might as well live someplace that I enjoy. And so we did really well. So there's your take on the May 2026 Prescott market. Things are looking good. I suspect that probably June's going to look better than last June too. Because remember, last June is when we started that decline. So all the numbers are going to look better. I'm not seeing a huge increase in inventory again. So as long as we keep supply and demand in balance, we're going to keep bumping along. But it doesn't mean, it's a great market. It's 2021. I can overprice my house. Wrong-o. You've got to get a professional opinion to know what your house is really worth. 80% of the local real estate agents here really don't have a clue on how to price a home in the given market. It's reflected in 50% of the market being overpriced and not moving. So give me a call. You know the number. You know my email. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. Share it with your friends and family, because this is the best source for what's going on in Greater Prescott. That's why we're the #1 real estate YouTube channel in Greater Prescott. See you next time, where Prescott is everybody's hometown.